habits and these things that we plant now eventually grow to be a tree with deep roots that either hold us, yeah, or allow us to grow and bear fruit. Okay? It's one or the other. All right? It's either things that we do now either going to hold us and be something that holds us to the ground and doesn't let us move, right? Or be a tree that grows and bears fruit. Okay? So the part of the book that we're going to think about, or where the discussion comes from, is a fish would never be happy living on land because it was made for water. An eagle never satisfied if it is not allowed to fly. And so we as Christians will never be completely satisfied on earth because we are made for more. Right? Though we are made for heaven, does not mean our life on earth is pointless. Okay? Though that we are made for heaven, it does not mean our life here on earth is pointless. And this is where the trickiness and the harshness and the extremity of our thoughts really take over. Okay? Because as one thing I personally struggled as someone growing up, and was this whole idea of, if my life was meant to be just for God and be for God only, then why am I studying? Why am I putting all this effort into making money and building a life for myself or being successful in the world, where at the end, all of it means nothing? When all of it means nothing. Me getting married, having kids, doing this and doing that, and creating a family and buying houses and building wealth and doing all these things, right? Why, after all this, it means nothing if I'm going to die and go to God? And it was something that really, really compelled me. It was a thought that really challenged me. And the arguments I'd have with my confession father and the conversations that you'd have with your confession father and say, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to stress about things that mean nothing? And this is where the challenge begins as Christians. Right? So, and we can hear the flip side of it, yeah? Right? Someone in the world, a young man, we use an example of a young man, or a young woman. Okay? And when you ask them, what do you want in life? Or what's your dream life in life, right? They use every single one of their senses to describe, right? And to fight and explain to you and envisage what they want. Yeah? So they'll tell you, you know, that I have this dream and this is what I want. I want this house with this many rooms. I want to eat the best food. I want to have a job that pays this much. So that I could wear this clothes, and I can wear these shoes, and I can travel around the world, that I could do all these things. And they're empowered by this conversation. They're truly empowered. And they set their goals, right? They set their goals and they say to themselves, I'm going to achieve this. And they make people around them believe that they are going to achieve it, all right? But then what happens is that person does achieve it. He achieves everything that he planned to do. He achieved everything that they wanted. Once they've achieved it, what happens is, generally, they set more goals. Yeah? They set more goals and they achieve it. They keep setting goals and they keep achieving it. At the end of their life, they've achieved everything that they desired. But they die and have nothing like the person that achieved nothing. Right? And as a Christian, we might think that that's a bit deflated. Yeah? But for us, it's actually a lot better, is that I can actually achieve all their success. I can achieve everything that I set my heart to, my mind to. But at the end of my life, I take something with me. I take something with me that no one can take away from me. That no person, that no country, that no business, that nothing can take away from me. And what is that as a Christian? Right? That as a Christian is who I am as a person. My actions, my thoughts, the way I look at things, my deeds. Yeah? Because in the liturgy it says, reward each one according to his deeds, not according to his riches and his successes. It's my deeds as a Christian that define me from being person A and person B. We can quickly distinguish who's a Christian and who isn't by their actions. And as you get older and you deal a lot more with people, and you have the experience of seeing people leave their work or go to a different company, etc., 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 they hardly remember, right, how well they did for the business, or how well they did for the company, or how well they did at the school, right? What they mainly talk about, or the memory that they leave, is how much of a good person they were. Yeah, they leave if they were a bad person, or this person was dodgy, or this person was good, or this person, I remember what he used to eat for lunch, or it's those things that people remember. Yeah, and this is what I have to instill into myself. Is that I have to instill in myself that my success as a Christian does not take me away from my studies, doesn't take me away from my life or the things that I need to achieve, but it adds, it's an addition to whatever I do. What do I mean by that? Yeah? Because when you listen to all these motivational talks and all these people that speak about success, they talk about very Christian values, right? They talk about waking up early, planning your day, covering your ears, not listening to what people say about you, like working hard, being honest, treating people with respect, being humble. And you hear it in every motivational talk. And one time I'm sitting there listening and going like, this reminds me of St. Paul, what he was saying to people. You know, being honest in the little things that you do. Doing things with integrity. Being a Jew to the Jew, a Gentile to the Gentile. Understanding people. These things are very, very Christian. So it made me think is that the success and remembering why I'm here on earth for does not take away what I'm supposed to do here on earth, but it actually adds. It continually adds. Okay? So, if my life here on earth, all right, is that I'll never be fulfilled, what will fulfill me is my virtue and my life with God. Okay? Which then leads us to this journey with God, on this path with God. And this path to God, a lot of people say, yes, you may know it. You may know this path from God. Okay? And what do I mean by you know it? It's very, very simple in the way we think about it. Right? We hear about it, be a good person, serve the poor, do your prayers, have regular confession, administer the sacraments. When you see someone that needs help, you help them. We hear about it, right? So we know what the tools that we need to acquire heaven. Okay? But what life here on earth allows us to do is experience. Because there's a saying, right? There's people that have the knowledge of God, and there's people that know God. Yeah? We have that saying again. There's another saying that people say is that you can never explain the taste of honey. Yeah? But someone has to taste it so they can experience what it tastes like. Right? Then we can go even further, is that me to know God, I first have to experience Him. And how do I gain that experience? It's not sitting at home and doing nothing, first thing. Yeah? It's not closing myself from the world and saying, woe to me, look at my life. It's not about doing things safe and not taking risks. It's not about me just trying to dodge every bit of responsibility in my life that comes my way, or every experience. It's not hiding from the world, but rather building on the things that we spoke about earlier, fulfilling your responsibility, fulfilling what you need to do in your life, using the talents that God has given you out in the world so that you can be that difference. And why is that important for us to do that? Because when we do those things, challenges occur. Challenges happen. So I'll be challenged with things that might need to make me make a critical decision, or test who I am as a person, or test my integrity, or test how truthful I am. Right? And no matter what the cost is, if I stay truthful to God and faithful to Him on this path, the experience that I eventually gain from that is the knowledge of Him. Okay? We use examples from the Bible. Okay? A famous one that we always hear about, Job. Right? Like, all of us look at Job and we're perplexed by his faithfulness to God. Because God gave him everything, took everything. Then after many years of tribulation, gave him back everything. Yeah? We use something a bit more easier. Joseph. Right? Joseph again was faithful to God. Yeah? Got put in situations where his faith was tested to God. His own betrayed him. Was a slave. But then eventually at the end, God gave him everything. Yeah? He didn't hide. Another famous one was Abraham. Abraham was another one. Waited his whole life for his own son. When God gave him land, gave him everything, but asked him to give him the thing that meant so much to him. And I imagine that struggle that Abraham was feeling. God, you gave me. You gave this son to me. You gave this son to me. And you want to take him. And I always imagine when they were going up to the place of sacrifice, him holding his son's hand, knowing that he was going to take him up to sacrifice. Just imagine what he was thinking. But being faithful to God and being truthful to him gave Abraham that experience that God will never leave him. Yeah? So it's through this journey to God where I continually remember that my goal is heaven and my focus is heaven, that in my life as I'm going to university, starting work, starting a family, having groups of friends, etc., where these things will be challenged. Where by me passing through these challenges, I gain a bit more connection with God. I gain a bit more resilience with God. I gain a bit more truthfulness with God. No longer does my knowledge of God just stay as words or ideas in my head. They become cemented and stand. And for me and for us, this is so, so important. St. John Chrysostom talks about this idea that our life is a loan from God. Okay? And a loan accrues interest. And generally, we get a loan to buy something that over a period of time, over a period of time, we pay for it, plus interest to gain a big asset. Yeah? Or to do something with it. So the most common one that we hear in Australia is the Aussie Dream, which won't be a dream for you guys because none of you will be able to afford a house by the looks of it by the time you're ready to buy. Or you'll be living in Nowra or Wagga or somewhere far away, or in tents in your parents' backyard, something like that. What will happen is that the Aussie dream of, I'm going to buy a house, so I get a loan, I pay interest on that loan, but after 30 years, right, or 35 years or whatever it is, I pay off this loan and I gain this house. Yeah? What happens if I don't pay the loan? No more house. Yeah? Or what happens if I keep reinvesting the money of that house? Huh? More houses? Or, for example, I could refinance and buy something else. But the house will never be mine. Yeah? All I'm doing is I'm thinking of other things that distract me from that ability to buy that house, to own that house. It's the same thing with God. Yeah? I've given you this life. The interest that you pay is the things that I told you to do. That give you the ability to know me. Alright? And that interest and that payment that we make is the church, is the goodness that we give to others, is loving your neighbour and loving God. That's the interest that we pay. And that's the repayment. But as soon as we stop doing those things, at the end of our life, when we finish paying the loan, we're either going to have a house or we're not going to have a house. And when St. John Chrysostom talks about this idea, like it perplexed me. Because it's actually so true. This life isn't mine. God owns it. He's asked me to pay it back in certain ways. I can't go to the bank and go, look, I've got sand and cement, that's how I'm going to make my repayments. Doesn't work. They require a certain currency. They require certain ways of making payment. So does God. Which then gets me to this final idea and this final thought, right? Of Didymus the thief. Okay? Didymus the thief, and those who were at the camp last week, Father Andrew slightly spoke about this. He spoke about it for 2 minutes, right? Was this whole idea of not worrying about what the world and 1,000 people think of you, or 1,000,000 people think of you, but remembering that the only person or the only thing that you should be worried about is what God thinks of you. Who you are in front of God. And Didymus, thief, that was on the cross with Christ, he had this. Yeah? He completely didn't care what everyone was saying to him, mocking him, wanting him to die, thinking bad things about him. But all he did was ask God to remember him. He was, at that point, he was so God-focused. He had his eyes on God. He knew who was being crucified next to him. He knew that this was God. So, on this journey of building our lives and doing it in the correct way, remembering that He is God, the person that has given us this loan in life to continually live it, that at the end we're not a fish out of water or a bird that just walks on the ground and cannot fly. We remember where our home is and why we're here on earth. And it's not here to waste time. It's here to be the most successful people that we can be, to be the most honest people that we can be. So at the end of our lives, after we've done everything that we wanted to achieve, in front of God, when we say, God, remember me. Remember me, God. He doesn't say, I do not know you. But He says, come, my beloved, into the house that you have purchased, that I've given you. Come into the house that I've given you. At the end of your life, you don't say, God, but I worked hard. I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. I've got my 3 degrees. I've done this and I've done that. For Him, for God, it does not matter. But what matters is that you've done those things with honesty and integrity, that you did them to the best of your ability, that you did not waste the talents that God has given you. Even if you were good at one thing, taking that one thing and doing good with it, and doing it in the correct way. If you're good at 3 things, doing those 3 things with integrity and honesty, and doing it to the best of your ability. And doing those things with integrity and honesty will always be a challenge, will always be something that will be very, very hard to do. Because being Christian comes with a price, comes with hardships, comes with struggles. But if we do those things, our knowledge of God becomes us knowing Him. Us knowing Him becomes us wanting to be with Him. Us wanting to be with Him leads us a life to underneath the cross, that when we finish our lives, we are remembered with God. And glory be to God.
Thank you, Anthony. It was nice and intimate. It was actually a good follow-on from the discussion.